Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 2021 Formula One My Driver Career Mode. Hope you're all having a great day today. Coming your way, we got the Mexico GP. Very excited for this one, a track that I really enjoy racing at here on this F1 2021 game. A good balance at this track of both the high speed straightaways, but as well as a lot of technical corners. So it's a nice mixed track here on the schedule now. So very excited for this one now, as I've had some decent success here in past F1 games. So hoping for the same today here in F1 2021. Just 4 races left in the season. Lewis Hamilton up by 8 points over his teammate Valtteri Bottas. In the last 3 races, Bottas has beat Lewis Hamilton, including 2 consecutive wins in Japan, where Hamilton DNF'd while leading with less than 10 laps to go due to an engine failure. And then in the United States Grand Prix, Bottas got Hamilton on the start, and due to the rain conditions, never really had a chance to get actually past Bottas after that had happened. So coming into the Mexico GP, I was looking at the weather and I saw immediately we got rain again on the way. So we go pretty much all season without anything with the weather other than some rain towards the end of the French GP, and now 3 consecutive races it is going to be raining for it. So a nice experience. We're getting right at the end of our rookie season here in the rain. We've been putting up some really good numbers lately here with our performance, so I'm very confident we're going to be on a good ride next season in our My Driver Career Mode. Very well could be going to Aston Martin. We'll have to wait and see. Toro Rosso is definitely a possibility as well. Right now, kind of how I'm looking at it is the end goal, so far early in this career mode anyways, is to try and end up on the McLaren team at some point, hopefully by like season 3 or 4. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Of course, with the R&D, we don't know where a team like McLaren's going to be in 2 or 3 seasons. They could be at the very bottom of the grid, so we wouldn't want to go to them at that point. But here we are in FP1, making some laps here, doing the track acclimatization program, now just getting used to the course with these understeering conditions with this 2021 F1 car, and I felt like I was adapting a lot better here than I anticipated. Now, some tracks I've gotten into very confident and then had to really take a reality check and just sit back and just accept the fact that the understeer is going to be a really big issue. But here we are today, and I was just right off the bat feeling very, very confident with this car. So I was pretty happy with what was happening. We came through to start our race strategy program now, and we were exceeding the expectation really for everything so far here in FP1. So everything was going nice and smooth and building up that confidence now that we can put up a good fight to Mick Schumacher here, as we have been getting the best of him for a good chunk of this season. I think the last time he beat us was at the Italian GP when we really had absolutely nothing for him. I think the Italian GP, other than Spain, was like the low point of the season for us. We had no speed at what the easiest track pretty much on the schedule, which made 0 sense. But we came through to complete our 3rd lap of the race strategy program, once again in the green, beating the target time now, as I would call it there. Schumacher in P11, but he's on that soft tire. We end up 14th place here with the medium compound, just behind the Alpine World Drivers Champion of Fernando Alonso. So now we come into FP2 just doing our little quick practice little programs here, trying to simulate as much as I can with the time that we have remaining, and it actually wasn't that bad this time around here, and thank goodness the success rate was pretty high, other than a few little odd occasions of some failures right there, but we were done at FP2 pretty quick here, so we would move on into FP3, of course, seeing what qualifying pace do we have with this Haas car. And into turns 1, I made a mistake already here on the soft tire, but it still felt really good when I wasn't screwing up, that is. So through sector 2, I really like this sector of the track. I think just about every part of this track I'm a fan of. The S's with the understeer this year, it's a little tough to get through here at a really good pace, but you can definitely manage now. And this is probably one of the more unique sections on the calendar right here. I'm not a fan of this part of the course right here. It just doesn't seem to flow well for me, but we still make the best of what we can. But we were way off the target time, over a second off, and I didn't feel like I left a whole lot on the table there, so the concerns immediately shoot through the roof now, and I didn't feel like I had much left in the tank, so I decided to call it right there. And you can see we were 0.6 of a second off of our teammate of Schumacher, which honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I was still a little bit confident that we still had something here going into qualifying here for the Mexico GP. So, definitely wasn't sure what to expect here. We're going to have the pace to get to Q2 because surprisingly, we might be the second worst team on the grid, but myself as well as our teammate of Schumacher have really been putting up a legitimate threat to get to Q2 here week after week. So we were trying to do the same thing, of course, here today in Mexico now as we came through to start our first lap here very early in the session. Now just dry conditions thankfully here in Q1, so nothing to worry about there. And I felt like I put down a pretty solid lap here. We're going to come through into this final sector through the penultimate turn down into the final corner. Bottas had come through to set the fastest lap of the session. A little bit of oversteer there on the exit of that final turn, but we come through to cross the line ahead of Schumacher, and I was a little bit surprised by that because I didn't feel like my lap was very good, but Schumacher, I could tell, actually just set a really bad lap in general. That's what happened there, so maybe he got held up or made a mistake. So we come through at the end now of Q1, and still 14th place, but I wasn't comfortable with that. I felt like we were going to fall down before this session came to a close here in just a minute's time, so I'm trying my best to get a little bit better here, get into the green, and it unfortunately really wasn't improving a whole lot. We got about 7/10 of a second better, but in the final few corners I lost it all and end up actually being in the negative as we come through to cross the line. So we are going to end up getting eliminated here in Q1. Wasn't surprised by that, but we actually are less than a tenth behind our teammate of Mick Schumacher. There's Russell and Latifi there, P19, P20 here. So get ready to go for the Mexico GP.
Here we go then. It's time to race in Mexico City, a place which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther won from third on the grid. And what are the Honda-powered cars this year? Well, Red Bull have been going strong here in recent seasons, so can they keep that record going today? We're a long way above sea level here in Mexico today, which could pose some cooling issues for the cars as they make their way around this 2.6-mile lap. 17 corners with top speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and watch out for potential overtaking into turns 1 and 4. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. Let's start by getting your take on Daniel Ricciardo. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Norris, Sergio Perez, and Sainz, Ricciardo, Ocon, Giovinazzi, and Sebastian Vettel, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Charles Leclerc, the rookie, Russell, Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Nicholas Latifi, and Yuki Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
There you saw the pre-race festivities going on, and there you see the weather. It looks a little sketchy. The first 3 slots are dry, and then the last 4 are rain. So we're up here in P14 due to the grid penalties. So a nice grid spot for us. You can see I actually have the hold clutch option. Again, I got the simulation settings back to where I like them instead of having them reset for some reason. So we're ready to get going here for the Mexico GP now. Hopefully we can get some points today with these tricky weather conditions. It always opens the door for something crazy, so the hopes were high. Alright boys, anything can happen today. Hopefully the rain comes a little bit later than sooner, because these mediums I think are the right tire to start on, and it can take us longer. So we'll see what happens. Let's have a good one. There you hear myself on the radio to the team as we get to the grid here from the 14th starting position on the front row. It's Lewis Hamilton as well as Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen there just behind them on row number 2. A McLaren up there in the mix of Lando Norris as it's lights out and we are underway for the Mexico GP, and immediately it's a blistering start for Max Verstappen, 3 wide through the middle. Bottas on the right side, Hamilton on the left. Verstappen, unbelievable start for him. He's going to go from 3rd to 1st. It's going to be 3 wide though into into turns 1, and now Hamilton, he backs out of the battle as Verstappen is to the lead, and Hamilton in contact with Lando Norris right there in the McLaren. So a big moment now as Hamilton might have some wing damage as he swerves into the side of Lando, just about attacks his teammate Bottas there. Is he going to have enough there through the second sector as we head towards that? It doesn't look like it. It looks like he's off the pace. I think Lewis Hamilton has wing damage from that contact with Lando Norris, the championship leader by 8 points, who's been continuing on the decline with his points lead over the last 2 or 3 races due to bad luck, unfortunate circumstances, and it is about to get worse for Lewis Hamilton. As you can see, he is way off the pace, and now he's got Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris taking him 3 wide into this final sector. Now as it gets even worse for Lewis Hamilton, it's turning into an absolute nightmare for the championship leader here, as I would expect to fully see him come into the pit lane at the end of this first and opening lap. Daniel Ricciardo in the background off the pace as well. I think he has some damage, and there comes Lewis Hamilton into the pit lane right now. Ricciardo stays out, but he couldn't actually get in at a safe manner, so I think he's going to come in at the end of the next lap. Of course, we're going to get a look, a POV of what happened on Lewis Hamilton's onboard camera, but here's the just lightning start from Max Verstappen. Unbelievable right there for him. The pole sitter of Lewis Hamilton goes from first all the way down to third before they even got halfway down this front straightaway. So as they go down into turns 1, Hamilton tries to force it right there, backs out there on the exit of turns 1, nearly has some contact right there with Verstappen, but right here you see him get into that wheel of Lando Norris with the right front side of the wing, and that's all it took right there to damage his car. So Lewis tried to fight back there against Valtteri, and then right here you can really notice that something's definitely wrong with his car, damage for sure. And then this is when he got taken 3 wide by Carlos Sainz as well as Lando Norris here into this final sector. A little bit of contact for Carlos as well, but he hit Lewis at an angle that it did not damage his wing. So Carlos was okay to keep on fighting, as Lewis, unfortunately, at the end of lap 1, as it stands right now after pitting, he is no longer the championship leader. So here's a look at my start. I am not good at starts. I still can't figure it out. If you got any tips, again, let me know in the comments. I saw some tips previously, and I've been trying to apply them. I just think I'm just not good at applying those tips so far. So I lost a few spots on this initial start on this run towards turns 1, but I got a little bit aggressive down into the corner here, into the braking zone, and made up 1 spot over the AlphaTauri. And then we were side by side with the Williams. You got the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc there after a grid penalty quite a ways down the order, but now I had moved up back into the pretty much about the same spot that I had actually started the Grand Prix, and then I made up the final few spots that I needed to get back right here on the other AlphaTauri. Now, as I also tried to attack Leclerc right here, as we would be side by side with him for a moment, but then he would actually get back out in front. I wasn't pushing against Leclerc too much because I don't believe in pushing against like the 4th best car when I'm the 3rd or 2nd worst car on the grid. So now at the end of lap 2, Daniel Ricciardo was holding up a whole bunch of drivers, but he would finally pit from the 7th position because he also picked up wing damage on the start of that GP. As you see some oversteer from myself, and that puts me under attack from Kimi Räikkönen. So a bit of a wild start here from the Mexico GP. Here comes Räikkönen, his 4th final race, his final Mexican GP of his career here in Formula 1. Now he's going to try and make a move up my right-hand side. I decide to give it to him, but as that happens, he blows an engine. Kimi Räikkönen is going to be out of this Grand Prix on just lap number 3, and we freely move on with our day there as we were under attack from him as he blew that engine. So very unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo world champion now, as we were at the same time moments later under attack from Pierre Gasly and the AlphaTauri. And I said, you know what, if you're that desperate right now for that 11th spot, go and have it. I don't want to fight you. So I let him have it right there, and we move on with our day. But then we had Tsunoda just behind us as well, trying to put on some pressure. But now to lap 4, Lando Norris actually passing Valtteri Bottas there in the Mercedes. We know those McLarens are strong in a straight line, as now Verstappen was already over 5 seconds ahead of 2nd place here. As now at the end of lap 3, on lap 4 we would get passed by Yuki Tsunoda there in the AlphaTauri, as he actually has a lockup into turns 1 but manages it quite well. So we drop down into 12th place, and that wasn't it, because here comes Fernando Alonso here a few laps later on lap 6 in the Alpine. He is going to go by as well on the right hand side, as I really didn't have a whole lot to fight him here at this point. I knew it wasn't a me problem. I knew it was all in the car because he looked just in front of Fernando while we have Mick Schumacher, our teammate. So we were right there on pace with Mick now, as actually he would be under attack from Fernando here in this final sector. And Fernando is going to get the spot right there for 11th as we nearly ran into the back of our teammate of Schumacher, but fortunately did not happen. But then on lap 9, the rain starts falling already a lot earlier than I think any of us really anticipated based off of what it was showing on the pre-race weather kind of radar thing with the slots and stuff. It said the first 3 slots of the race were going to be dry, so it wasn't long at all. Lap 10, and you can see the conditions were definitely favorable for some wet tires. Now is up in front of us. We had Charles Leclerc off the course. It looked like he had gone around for a spin. He's going to rejoin the track there in the Ferrari as we come up right to his gearbox. Unfortunately, can't attack on him, and as that's happening, Lewis Hamilton, who pitted at the end of the first lap, has gotten to the back of us. Now, there is a way Lewis Hamilton can get back into this race, and that is if everybody had to come into the pit lane for another set of dry tires before putting the intros on, but that's not going to be the case. So Lewis is going to be stuck a little bit down the order now as everybody is coming into the pit lane right here because the intermediate tires need to go on immediately. And I say everybody, well, Leclerc decides after spinning out, he is going to stay out an additional lap. We're going to do the double stack. I knew 100% that I was about to lose a bunch of time because we're still close enough to Schumacher to lose a lot of time by waiting for him, but I felt like we would lose more time staying out than doing this double stack and waiting the extra 5-6 seconds. So we will get a view of Charles Leclerc's spin here in just a few moments. I kind of felt bad for holding up Antonio Giovinazzi quite significantly right there, but nonetheless we throw the intermediate tires on and get back going here. So a lot of work to do if we want to get ourselves back forward. Ricciardo just behind us there in the McLaren, another driver that had issues and had to pit at the end of that second lap of the Grand Prix. So he's definitely having to make up a lot of ground, and Ricciardo's had a lot of bad luck this season in our My Driver career mode. Of course, he did have a win at the British Grand Prix, but other than that, he's definitely been plagued by a lot of bad luck. But there you see the spin right there for Leclerc in the Ferrari. He just caught the curb wrong there when we started going through the S's, and you're going to see the onboard camera right here. So you want to put your 2 right side wheels over this curb. It looks like he kind of had him in an awkward spot, kind of on and off, and well, around he went. So it's so cool with this game, seeing the AI make those mistakes. That's one of my favorite things about F1 2021. But you can see how much time I lost with this double stack effect as I was behind Nicholas Latifi. So I was having to run him down, and then I had Ricciardo chasing me down. But by the time we came to the lap 16, we had gotten to the gearbox of Latifi now as we try to use that overtake mode to get a move on him. And sure enough, there we go to the left-hand side of Latifi down towards turns 1. Ricciardo has joined the party as well in the McLaren. Nearly some contact right there with the fellow Canadian, but we move up into that 13th position now as he would be under attack moments later from Daniel Ricciardo, and by the time we went through the next corner, Ricciardo was already alongside him and completing the pass to move up into 14th place. And it was just a matter of time until Ricciardo was on my gearbox and challenging me for the now 13th spot as he would make a move up the right hand side on lap 17. Another battle that I really knew wasn't worth fighting there as he goes a little bit deep into the corner, and then I accidentally left overtake mode on the ERS without realizing it, so the car was all over the place for a second, and then I finally realized it and turned it off and then continue on my day here for the moment. But now to lap 19, just an idea of what's going on throughout the field. Verstappen still leads by 10 seconds over the McLaren of Lando Norris. Perez in 3rd, Bottas in 4th, Tsunoda down in 5th place, having a great run today. Vettel in 6th, having a good run. Alonso, Gasly, Lewis Hamilton currently is back up into the points, so he's having a nice rally back forwards right now. Carlos Sainz there in 10th place. Schumacher having a really strong run as well in P11. He's still looking for his first points of his F1 career, and if it gets crazy here late in this race, that could definitely open up that opportunity for him to do exactly that. Now as you look through the rest of that order down towards the bottom, Lance Stroll, he started last and is now the last car running, having a miserable day here in Mexico. So back to lap 21 now here as we are seeing the rain was getting a lot more significant. It was getting a lot heavier, and I realized definitely looking like we're going to have to switch to the wet tires here momentarily now as the conditions just continue to get worse and worse. And we were close to making a pit stop already now for a second set of intermediate tires, but then Jeff comes over the radio on lap 22, says let's change to the wet tires, and of course I agree 100% with that. And and we were getting ready to come in and make our pit stop here. As you see me asking for the weather, trying to figure out what is going on here and see how much longer we're going to have this downpour for. So we come in and the wet tires getting set to go on here. It's been a lot of fun lately over the now last 3 episodes, getting a lot of experience racing in the rain. I think at the beginning of this My Driver career mode, I was horrendous in the rain. You saw that in some qualifying performance, how far off I was. And now, obviously, it seems like we can hold our own and be fairly competitive for what we have. Of course, we're in a Haas, so we can't do a whole lot, but I feel competitive when I need to be. So it's definitely been quite the step up here now, as we were still under field at this point in the race, but with this rain coming down like crazy, I knew we were going to be okay. Now, as I nearly wrecked myself into the wall there on lap 23, that would open the door for Charles Leclerc right there to go by in the Ferrari, so we would drop back down into 15th position. Lewis Hamilton, by the way, he surprisingly stayed out significantly longer on the intermediate tire than anybody, because it wasn't until the start of lap 25 that he had made his pit stop. So he lost all the time pretty much that he had worked to gain after that lap 1 incident, and now is down to 14th place just behind myself. What is Mercedes doing? They're basically gifting Valtteri Bottas the points lead at this point here now, as the only thing that'll keep him from leading the points after today is maybe a DNF or an incident of some sorts now, as Hamilton would get up my right hand side on the front straightaway on lap 27 and just blow right on by. I wasn't trying to fight him. Of course, he's in the championship fight. You don't want to mess with him whatsoever, as he actually overshoots turns 1. Again, we saw that earlier with Ricciardo when we were just behind him, side by side up in front of us with Leclerc, as well as Antonio Giovinazzi. Now as the Leclerc will move up into now the 11th position. Then a lap later on lap 28, Hamilton and Giovinazzi going at it side by side, and here I come into the mix now. Some oversteer once again in the cars. I'm trying to get that throttle down and get that overtake mode going as soon as I possibly can here to get as much of an advantage as I can on the car in front of me, because we know we can compete with Giovinazzi there. Another little power slide on lap 29, but this time we are close enough to make a move right here on the Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi, he's going to defend to the left. I'm going to attack to the right hand side here into the left-hander. He locks up and we make contact with the Alfa Romeo, and we're actually going to pick up wing damage just from that little bit of contact, and it wasn't much wing damage. Here's a real quick look at it. He just slides the tire right there on the left front, couldn't turn, and immediately right here I can't turn the car. That's when I realized, oh yeah, we got wing damage on the car. Giovinazzi as well has wing damage, so it wasn't just myself, and it's crazy to think that little bit of contact damaged our wing enough to have to change it, but that's just what simulation damage does. And you can see we both come into the pit lane. He's putting on a brand new wing, and we are as well. One difference is I felt like the rain was letting up enough to put on the intermediate tire. Giovinazzi was putting the wet tire back on, but I said, you know what, let's take a gamble, put the intermediate tires on, and hopefully the first couple laps might be rough, but the last handful of laps of this Grand Prix are really going to be good for us. Now there's a caution on the track, and it's for Lando Norris in second place. His car has come to a stop on the side of the track. The safety car has come out. Some mechanical failure right there for Lando Norris, and now we are going to also be trapped a lap down here in 16th place. Now, of course, this helps me because the track conditions are going to improve as we run these laps here, because it's taking us a lot longer. But to lap 34 at this point, the safety car was getting ready to come in, and it was Verstappen out front who's been basically gifted this win, because Perez, who's in second, has to get past the cars that have been lapped, including myself, as well as Antonio Giovinazzi and a few others as well, like a Williams, I believe, of Nicholas Latifi. So that really messed over everybody that was second on back, because here's Max Verstappen leading the way as the safety car had gone away here with just 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And you see Yuki Tsunoda there in 4th place, Bottas in 3rd place, but they got all these lapped traffic in front of them, including myself, as you see right now in front of us. George Russell going at it there with the Alpine as we go down into turns 1, and then you can see our teammate of Mick Schumacher right now in the points as it stands here now, as we're right behind this battle here with Russell, and we're going to get past George Russell after his little scrap with Esteban Ocon. So up into 15th place we go, and now we have a chance to go for 14th here. What's going to be better, the wet tires or the intermediate tires? Based off of the feedback I was getting from Jeff over the radio, is both of those tires at this point here, and the conditions were pretty even. Now we're also seeing that these drivers with blue flags trying to get out of the way, and they were coming to just about complete stops behind us, and that was bringing out the yellow flag. So there was no spins or anything happening. It was just simply some of the drivers were just coming to a complete stop, like Lance Stroll and the Aston Martin. But we come through to start now the final lap of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen hasn't won a race all season long. Red Bull hasn't won in general. They've gotten some podiums here and there, but they just have not been the competitive team that we expect them to be, and nowhere near the caliber team that they are right now in real life this year in 2021. So here I am trying to put that pressure on the back of Ocon there in the Alpine, but it's not going to be enough from the looks of it now, as if I can't complete the pass right here, it's probably over, and sure enough, it doesn't quite happen now. But 15th place after everything that happened, I wasn't too disappointed with it. Now, if we could have avoided that contact with Giovinazzi, that would have been really helpful, of course, for us, but unfortunately, it just could not be avoided once he locked up that left front tire. So here we are heading down towards the S's for the final time. More cautions behind us because of some drivers with that blue flag just trying to basically come to a complete stop to stay out of the way. But it's Max Verstappen through the penultimate turn down towards that final corner. He is going to come through for the first time this season to win a Grand Prix here at a track that he's been strong at in the past in real life, and we come through out of the final turn. We're going to finish in 15th place there. Not quite enough for the Alpine of Esteban Ocon now, as Perez will make it a 1-2 for Red Bull there with a second place finish, and Bottas up there in P3 on the podium here as we have some post-race celebrations once again here from Mexico as Yuki Tsunoda earns Driver of the Day.
The thin air here in Mexico City makes this event a brutal one for these Formula One cars. But this team have done a fantastic job to make it to the checkered flag and take a well-earned victory. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
It's a heroic effort for any driver to race in conditions like these, and seeing them fight their way to the front was very special indeed. They were able to find all the grip, all the good lines, and had the confidence to get on the power to top it all off. That's what pushed them into first place here today.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
There you see the post-race celebrations as well as the finishing order. Tsunoda has had a history in these rain races of finding a way to get really good finishes. He did the same thing in France earlier this season when that rain struck late in the day. Hamilton rebounds to a 10th place finish. Schumacher gets his first points of his Formula One career here in his rookie season. 2 points for him there with that 9th place finish. But now Bottas takes over the points lead. He has a 6-point lead over Lewis Hamilton. Verstappen up to 3rd, and the standings over Norris, who's now down to 4th. Just 3 points separate those two drivers here as we quickly see the Manufacturer Championship, or the Constructors Championship. Haas in currently 8th with Alfa Romeo down there in that 9th spot, and of course Williams at the very bottom of the grid. So going into the next race here of the Brazilian Grand Prix, another GP where I could definitely see a legitimate chance of some rain there. Of course, I've had a lot of rain races there in the past with the older F1 games, so wouldn't put it past this one to be a rain one as well and make it 4 episodes in a row potentially of some rain racing here now as we try to get some more R&D upgrades ready for the end of the season. Still haven't been told anything about any regulation changes, so I don't know if they're coming. I think if they're going to happen, we're probably going to find out in the next episode. I would at least hope here, as it's going to get down to the wire here over these final 3 races between Lewis Hamilton as well as Valtteri Bottas. Just Brazil, Australia, and Abu Dhabi remain now, as Bottas has been putting on the pressure against Lewis Hamilton. As always, if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode. And in the next one, we head to Brazil. A very exciting one on the way, I hope. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Of course, before we end it, just want to say thank you to the Going Racing members of the channel of MJ, Joseph 9001, Timothy Arline, Bubba Jr., Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, AJ Vasseur, Russell Dixon, Kenneth Barnett, Daniel9302, Speed Demon 341, as well as Illinois Diecast. I appreciate you guys' support so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.